Hey, welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me today. As always, I hope you're keeping well. So I'm going to be talking you through my summer reading plans, my summer TBR, and I'm going to be keeping this on the shorter side of things because I am very aware of the fact that my book buying ban is going to be over in mid-July. I have a few notions as to what may happen come July 13th. I'm either going to continue to persevere and get my TBR down and just make that the main focus of the year, or then I am going to just go around the charity shops trying to find as many good bargains as I possibly can when it comes to used books. I'm going to try my best to be good and to persevere, but we'll see. First up is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. I have seen this book do the rounds. I know people have kind of mixed views about it. This is centered around events that happened 7 years previously, and it's about a group of researchers who set out on a voyage to the Mariana Trench in order to film a documentary/mockumentary about ancient sea creatures and legends. And what ends up happening is that they never end up returning, and a lot of people believe that it was actually a hoax. And then we have other people who speculate that it is actually a tragedy, that none of these people were found. There wasn't even a trace of any of their research or anything to be found about them. However, 7 years later, another crew assembles in order to set out and find out what happened. And a few of these researchers on this particular trip are going just to be able to validate their life's work and prove to people that they haven't just been wasting their time. But one particular member of the crew is hoping to find answers to what happened to her sister all those years ago. I know this book really centers around the idea of mermaids, and I haven't really read much mermaid horror, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. Next up, I have The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. So I was aiming to read this in January and never had enough time to get around to it. So I'm actually looking forward to reading it this summer because I feel like it's more of a summer read. I don't know why I have that notion in my head, but that's what I'm going with. So this is about a young woman who's lost everything after the Mexican Civil War. Her father has died, her house is destroyed, and she has no other option in life other than to marry a rich Don. And there's a lot of rumors and speculation about this man that she ends up marrying because his previous wife has gone missing and nobody knows what happened to her. So it's kind of reminiscent of Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. The staff at the Hacienda are also really strange and end up performing weird rituals, and Beatrix realizes that she's just really in over her head and she may have just made a really bad decision in marrying this particular man. So this sounds fantastic. Heard nothing but positive reviews about this book and I'm really looking forward to getting into it, and I feel like the summertime is just going to be the perfect environment to read this in. The next book is Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and this is about a street kid called Domingo who basically goes around collecting rubbish in order to make a little bit of money and survive on. And one evening he ends up bumping into this mesmerizing person, a girl called Alt, who actually turns out to be a vampire who's on the run from these narco-vampire bosses. And she ends up getting this kid caught up in the crossfire. Alt is determined to flee and make it out of Mexico City alive, and Domingo is just determined to help her. So the two of them team up and try their best to survive because this is a time where they can trust no one. So I don't know what I'm really expecting from this. From the plot synopsis, I think it's just going to be a fun, quick read. I don't know if this is going to be a new favorite, but I'm interested to find out more. It's just over 200 pages or so, and I'm really into reading books, specifically horror novels by Latino authors at the moment, so I'm hoping this will be good. Next, I have episode 13 by Craig DiLouie, so I still haven't managed to get around to reading this yet, but I'm aiming to do it this summer. So this is set around a husband and wife duo who work on a ghost hunting TV show, and every week they go to a different location with their team that is allegedly haunted in order to explore the place and to just make some good reality TV. So episode 13 of their show brings them to their most anticipated location yet, which is a mansion that was in the 70s used as a paranormal research foundation where a load of weird experiments were performed in order to determine if there's life after death. The story is told through a variation of mixed media, which is, again, another element of horror novels that I really like, when it's done well. I know that it might seem like it is quite long at times when you're reading it, and that it can be quite difficult based on the mixed media elements. With mixed media elements, you tend to need to focus a little bit more and concentrate a bit harder in order to take in everything that's happening. One of my goals this year is to read more found footage type horror novels in order to make a really decent recommendation video based around it. So this is one that I need to get off my list. So a book series that I started quite a while ago and have made absolutely no progress in so far is the Dune series. So this summer I'm aiming to read the second and third book in the series. So the second book is Dune Messiah and the third book is Children of Dune. And a lot of people say that Children of Dune is their favourite in the series. Now, I am not going to be making an effort to read every single book that was ever written, just because I know they go really downhill, but I'm aiming to read the next 4 that come after Dune. Obviously, with the second film coming out, there was a lot of discussion around Dune and the lore and whether or not you should continue on with reading the rest of the series. I had always the intentions after reading Dune to continue on with it. I just never really got around to it, as you know, there's many books in my collection that I'm just like, I haven't gotten around to it yet. So I'm really interested in where the series is going to go. I have had spoilers about both of these books, but to be perfectly honest, I don't mind, because I feel like knowing certain things about them is just more motivation for me to read them and experience that myself and have my own opinions about these books. So yeah, this is going to be something that I just crack on with this summer. I don't have that many science fiction books on my TBR. I think I only have about 6 or 7. So reading these 2 will be taking a good chunk out of that list anyway. So an author that I've been meaning to read from for such a long time is Octavia E. Butler, and I'm going to be reading Kindred. So this follows a young woman called Dana who is 26 years old. She's happily married and she's just at the start of her life, really. But something ends up happening to her where she is suddenly brought back in time to the antebellum South, where she is tasked with saving the drowning son of the plantation owner. And it's basically Dana's experience of being brought back in time to this one particular place, and each time she travels back to the past, her stays become longer and longer, and at a certain point her life becomes at risk because of these extended periods of time where she's staying, because she is so dedicated and focused on helping those that she's descendant from that her own existence is now at risk of not happening. So this sounds like it's going to be a really intense read. I know that it's going to be incredibly moving, and I have just wanted to read Octavia E. Butler for such a long time. She's one of those authors that, you know, you never hear anyone saying anything bad about, and just how incredible her writing is and the stories that she came up with. I just can't wait to experience them. Next, I have Beautiful Star by Yukio Mishima, and this is set in the 1960s in Japan, and it centers around one particular family who have discovered that they are not actually from Earth. Each member of the family is from a different planet, and this realization ends up bringing them closer together as a family, and this family become really concerned for the human race because of the potential of a bomb being dropped. So the father in the family ends up putting coded messages in the newspaper for other aliens to see, to rally them to help the human race. But it turns out that not all aliens feel the same, where they feel that it's their obligation to help humans. A lot of other aliens tend to look down at humans and think that they've made their own bed. So a few of you have recommended this author to me over the years, and I only happened across this particular edition of this book in January or so. And once I read about it, I realized that this sounded like it was going to be a book for me. Like, this is going to be something that I really enjoy, hopefully, fingers crossed. So if you watched my video on chunky books that I'm aiming to read this year, you will know that my summer reading plans wouldn't be complete without reading Don Quixote. So this is going to be my big chunky book of the summer, at least of June or July anyway. And I'm really looking forward to getting into it. I don't know what happened to my edition, but the spine has like curled, but it makes it much easier to read and flip through. And it doesn't look like I'll be able to break the spine since the spine is so curly now at this point. So this was initially published in 1605 in Spanish, then later translated into English, and this focuses on a man who's born of low nobility and he's really inspired by chivalric romances, and he decides to try to become a knight in order to help the nation and restore chivalry. This is meant to be an incredibly entertaining read, and I know that when people talk about some of the bigger books that they've read, that when people bring this one up in particular, they say that it was really worth the read, that it was a really entertaining read. Despite the fact that there is serious moments in it, there is a good amount of commentary on classism. So I'm hoping that that's going to be my experience too. And I'm just looking forward to getting another chunky classic off my TBR and on my read list. And then finally, the last book that I have on my summer TBR is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is a book that I talked about on here not too long ago. So this story follows the character of Elizabeth Bennet, who is the daughter of a country gentleman, and she's introduced to Fitzwilliam Darcy, who is a rich landowner. And basically it's the story of the two of them trying to get it together in order to have some sort of relationship. I know Jane Austen's writing can be very tongue-in-cheek at times. I know that there's going to be like satirical elements in this, but I love hearing people talk about certain classics. And I know that Pride and Prejudice is so many people's favorite Jane Austen book. And just listening to certain people talk about it, I'm like, I want to have that experience too. So I'm hoping that I enjoy it. I know it's not usually my type of classic. I usually like, more dark and disturbing stuff. I'm not really into happiness and romance and things like that, but I'm gonna give it my best shot and hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised. So that has been my summer TBR. Those are all the books that I'm going to be focusing on reading this summer in June, July and August. And like I said, I purposely kept it a little bit short because I never know what's going to happen come mid-July once I'm able to buy books again, but I think I am going to try to rein it in. I know I can very easily get distracted by new books, so I do want to try to keep myself focused on the track that I'm currently on of just reading what I own, because realistically there's no need for me to go out and bulk buy a whole heap of new books when I still have more than 80 unread books on my TBR currently. So yeah, we'll see what kind of dent I can make within that in the next month or so. But anyway, if you have read any of these books that I talked about, let me know your thoughts below. And if you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can always follow me on my TikTok or my Instagram, where I make other short form bookish content. And if you haven't done so already, feel free to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. It helps me getting into the algorithm and I greatly appreciate it. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.